I never understood. It was, I've never dealt with anything like that, to be honest.
I think Alexander Volkanovski has been depressed and even possibly experiencing suicidal ideations, and this is his way of communicating it without knowing how to communicate it. Now, I'm making this analysis as a former athlete myself, as a health professional for nearly 10 years, someone who's worked with a variety of people with mental illnesses, alike to what I assess Alexander to be experiencing, and simply as a man who understands these feelings. Now, you know a man is struggling with these issues when he begins to talk about his struggles, when anyone asks him a question that is not even directly related to the issue at hand, but he finds himself there. And he finds his way there because he's quietly desperate to talk about and express his suffering and his challenges of what he's going through. And I can show you how that's the case now. Notice the question the reporter asks here.
Down to, why do you think you were hesitant?
He asked Volk why he thinks he was hesitant in the fight. 45 seconds later, this is his response.
I needed it. Again, obviously a lot of people will say it's for the money and all that, but it was much more than that. Like, you know what I mean? It is hard. Like, it really is hard for athletes. Sorry. I never thought I'd struggle with it, but I mean, like, for some reason, when I wasn't fighting or in camp.
Volk, to my knowledge, I've been following him in the UFC for a while. We're both from Australia, and Australians love him. What you should understand about Australian culture is, like, obviously I look very different from Volk. Volk is pure Australian. I have a mixed background from Africa and the Mediterranean, so I'm a mixed breed. I have learnt to communicate differently about my emotions and feelings to a classic Australian. Now, what you're seeing is he says, we all know what he's talking about. He says, I never thought that I would experience it. We all know what it is, and I've never heard Volk in all these press conferences and all these interviews, I haven't heard them all, but in many of them, talk about this. But we all know what he means implicitly.
Fuck, sorry. I was just doing my head in, you know what I mean? I needed a fight, and then this opportunity come up, and I'll be honest, I wasn't training as much as I should.
And I knew he was experiencing this. I knew it. As soon as I heard his Octagon interview, I knew he was experiencing this. I said, that man's depressed. This man is not in a good headspace. And how did I know? Let me show you. Listen.
Look, man, I just want to say to the UFC, please keep me busy. I don't do well when I'm not fighting. I needed to take this fight because I was doing my head in when I'm not fighting. So please keep me busy. I'm happy to go back in January. And
please keep me busy, he says twice. I don't do well when he's fighting, and he smiles. He has a slight smirk on his face because that is a defense mechanism that we use as men, as people, to cover up our emotions and think like everything's okay. And everything's okay. Let me smile as I feel pain inside of me. When you see a man smiling while his words are saying something else, he's experiencing a lot of pain and trying to cover something up. And if I could say this respectfully, I think women, for a number of reasons, are notoriously not very skilled and haven't developed an understanding of how to read a man's pain and suffering. They typically, on average, don't know how to hold space for a man who's experiencing depression, suicidal ideations, and a lot of mental anguish. And of course, because that's not really taught, and a lot of young women, because he has a wife, I'm saying this, he has a wife at home, he has a new child, right? And so men need men to support each other. And I'm not saying women can't support men. Of course, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying typically women learn from households, from men who are typically, like, what's the average man in a traditional household? He's avoidant. He doesn't express his emotions. He is out of the home a lot. He doesn't communicate and is vulnerable very often. This is the typical archetype of a man, particularly of the previous generation. And so what are women learning? They're learning that, well, men just, they're not learning how to read and effectively hold space for the vulnerability of men. Now, I'm not saying all women, I'm saying many. And I can see this clearly, and a lot of men can see this clearly because we understand what this is. We understand intimately what he's feeling. And just like a woman can read another woman very well, but I think it's different. And keep listening to what he's saying here.
Obviously get this taken care of. Obviously go back down to featherweight. Obviously my job here is done for now. But yeah, again, credit to Islam. Great kick. What do I say?
You are the featherweight champ, Warrior. Is that what you're hoping for?
Oh yeah, of course. Like I said, please keep me busy.
Third time.
I don't do well when I'm sitting at home, not training and not in camp. So
I don't do well when I'm sitting at home, not training and not at camp. What does that mean? Well, to the average person, that they don't think much of it. I don't do well when I'm sitting at home. I know exactly what that means. And a lot of ambitious conqueror men know what that is when they don't have a purpose, when they don't have a drive, when they don't have a fight, when they don't have a war to go and fight. And this can be in business, this can be in anything. It's not actually a physical fight. It's a purpose and drive beyond family. It's a purpose and drive that is intrinsic to our soul, to our heart, to our genetics, to our biology itself. When he says he doesn't do well at home, I can read between the lines and understand that intimately because he is crying out desperately, UFC, keep me busy because I get fucked in the head. I don't do well in the head.
Yeah, like I say, yeah. So please keep me busy. That's all I can say.
5.
Everyone back home, I'm fine. I appreciate every single one of you. Everyone here, great job.
He said it like 5 times. That's a man. Look, I'm making some assumptions here. Obviously, I can't speak to him. He can only verify these claims that I'm all making himself with his own words and feelings. I'm making an assumption based off my experiences that I've mentioned earlier as a health professional, as a man, as someone who's experienced this before, as a former athlete. And I know, and I have a very high degree of confidence that he's experiencing, and rather has experienced, a degree of pain, suffering. He's climbed the mountain. When you climb a mountain and you achieve big goals, and then you're left with what's next. You're left with what's in between. And I think perhaps he might be questioning that because he's got the belt. He's talked about as one of the best. Where do you go from here? And where you go is you just keep going because it's all you know. It's all you know, and it keeps your mind occupied and it keeps you sane. You fight others so you don't have to fight yourself.
Take it. I thought it would be, I'm telling myself it's meant to be. Obviously, I was struggling a little bit, not fighting, doing my head in. I don't know how. Everything's fine. I've got a beautiful family.
That's very telling. Well, first of all, he says doing my head in. This is an Australian colloquialism. Perhaps other people don't understand what this means. We say, classic Australians will say, it's doing my head in. Doing my head in is, it's really bothering me. It's annoying me, it's frustrating me, there might be anger, a whole bunch of mixed emotions. It kind of makes sense what it's saying, but I just want to clarify. And he says this a couple of times. But beneath this colloquialism is a lot of emotion, pain, annoyance, frustration, anger, confusion, overwhelm, stress. And then he says, he doesn't know, I don't know. Everything's fine. I've got a beautiful family. So we justify it to ourselves as men. We justify it to ourselves. Everything's okay. I have money. I'm one of the best in the world. People respect me. People love me. I have a beautiful family. I have a child. I have a loving wife. Why would I be experiencing this? And this is like one of the hardest things to be a man is to fight this fucking demon inside of us that often comes about when much of the things in our life, we're ticking boxes. We're ticking boxes. We have purpose. We have a fulfilling career. We're good at our job. We have money. Because if you don't, we have a loving family. Because if you don't have those things, it's easy. It's obvious. Oh, you just don't have your life together. You're not depressed. You just have a shit life. If I can say that with a degree of respect, empathy, but also just very clear-cut honesty. Depression and anxiety is often a clue and symptom for you not being all that you can be. For you living a lackluster, mediocre, shitty life. You're not exercising, you're not eating well, you're not sleeping enough, you don't have social connection, you're isolated. or your body's saying, hey, listen to me. You're feeling this because you're not feeding my soul, my heart, and my body. Now, what happens when you're a man like Volk, who has achieved and is ticking all the major domains, and he still feels like that? What do you do? Because I understand this feeling. I'm not a world champion, but I understand this feeling in my own domain, achieving success with money and fulfillment and purpose and contribution, and I'm very good and all these things, and yet you can still feel like this. And it's one of the most difficult things as a man to deal with.
But I don't know. I think you just need to keep busy. So that's why
And his solution is to keep busy, and it is a solution, but it's a temporary solution. Because you don't want to be mindlessly busy. You want to be purposefully busy towards a cause and a shining aim and light that is very purposeful, conscious, and intentional. Now, if he's just keeping busy, I don't think his fights, I would imagine that the rest of his career from here on out, unless he addresses what's in here, is going to go as well as the career beforehand. Because if you're just fighting, and if you're just doing your job and your career and what you're good at just to keep busy, you're fighting off the demons that are trying to come and get you. Every time you're trying to keep busy, you're just pushing, suppressing. It's, I don't know what that is. Don't worry about it. Just doing my head in. Don't worry about it. You stonewall. Notice men will stonewall. When they don't want to talk about something, they will stonewall, which means we'll don't worry about it. We will put a wall up and we'll neglect and deflect. And with the appropriate man or woman in that scenario, they will call it out. They will call it out because that's often what men need. Because it takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable. Because men have learnt that vulnerability is actually not rewarded. It's actually punished. How is it punished? It can be punished by other men. Because if it's punished by other men, it means that you, especially Australians, maybe UK people resonate with this as well because our cultures are similar in some ways. It's punished in the way that you might be disrespected. They might poke fun at you. They might, you being a bitch, being a pussy, right? And seemingly harmless words, right, actually can affect the self-esteem and self-efficacy of men. Because we care about how we're perceived in the group. It's actually a very rational thing. You want to be respected, an authority. Men compete off status. And if another man perceives another man in that lower way, their status drops externally and internally. And so it's very important that a man feels like he is ascending the status hierarchy. That's where these belts come from. It's like, I'm the champion of the world. Yeah, you have the most status possible. You are the top king, top lobster, big boss, conqueror. But when your only domain of fulfillment and status is just fighting or is this one thing, there's going to be a problem. Because I think if Volk was retire next week, I think he'd be a mess. I respectfully, I really want to say this with care and empathy. If, just like what happened to Robin Williams, it wouldn't shock me. It would not shock me if we hear news about Volkanovski, I really don't like to say this, but it wouldn't shock me, seeing what I'm seeing, if we heard news about Volkanovski attempting suicide or it actually happening. It wouldn't shock me. Now, I'm making a best estimation. It may not be as serious as that, but where this keeps going is in that direction.
UFC to just keep me busy because
sixth time in the same day.
I need to be keeping busy. I need to be in
7.
camp. Otherwise, I'm going to do my head in. So that's I'll leave it at that.
I want to be sensitive to what you're saying,
and what do we do with that? Because you can see the facial expression. When a man is making these types of facial, he's trying to conceal emotion here. He's trying to conceal emotion. He's trying to hold it back. Very obvious.
You don't have to reveal anything you don't want to reveal, but you used to say
pursing lips together,
saying something like
he's pacing back and forth because we have a lot of tension and pressure inside of us, and it has to go somewhere. And the body keeps the score. And so he's trying to get it out. This is a compensatory This is the compensatory behavior that is happening right now.
Talking about in the past, do you mean by you need to stay busy before?
great. And the reporter does a great job. He does a very respectful job at asking this question and following up because it's such an important topic, and I'm very glad that he did so.
Or it does your head in.
Because,
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I've never believed, not believed in that stuff. Like I never got it.
I never believed in that stuff. I never got it. He can't even say it. He can't even say it. This is, man, this is the really, really tough thing about being a man that people don't respect, and particularly from a culture like Australia, where this stuff is not talked about much at all. And, you know, you put posters up, you say Mental Health Awareness Day, Men's Health Awareness Day, men kill themselves much more than women, and we're the most in prisons and depressed, all of this, right? But we don't even have a language. We don't even have the confidence and courage and vulnerability to even give it a word. And partly because a lot of people don't even know what they're feeling, because they're not taught to understand their emotions. You don't want to suppress everything. You need to learn what you're feeling. You can put words on it. Just because you say you're feeling depressed, I have felt depressed. Just because you say you're feeling depressed doesn't mean you're in a permanent state of depression. Just because you feel like you have a thought about jumping off a building doesn't mean you're actually going to do it. And it's okay to express that in a safe and logical and rational way. I think a lot of people have thought about this, and they feel very unsafe with the people around them and the society around them to even communicate that to them. And credit to Volkanovski for even expressing what he's expressing, because he has millions of people watching him. And he has to be very careful about the words he's using, and so he's saying less. And he says, I don't believe in stuff like that. I never got it. What is he talking about? He's talking about depression, maybe thinking about what the fuck am I feeling and thinking. It's probably a lot of self-judgment and self-criticism. It's like, why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling like, you know, my life isn't worth it, and what's the point of it all?
It was something that, you know, I don't know, maybe the more and more I learn about myself, the more and more I understand, yeah, I don't know, it was different. It was a decision I chose. You know, I talked about us having a smile on my face, me and my wife. Obviously my wife could see that, you know, it does get hard. I don't know why, you know what I mean? Like, you know, just, I think it was just so much going on.
And credit to his wife. He obviously he opens up to a degree with her because she can see it, or at least, he's not holding it all back at home, which is good, because the right woman can save a man's life. The right woman can save a man's life. Someone who is nurturing and patient and actually puts in the effort to learn about how to hold space for a man. How do you do that if you're a woman watching this? Or how do you do that if you want to communicate that to your woman? Well, you as a man need to do the best you can to communicate to her about what's going on inside of you. And you've got to be careful, because you need to do it in a way that gives her security that you're handling it as well. Because women can become in a very insecure place if their man expresses all this to her and he's like, I don't know what to do. You have to be careful about that. If it's serious, communicate it. But if it's earlier on, then a woman can get a degree of insecurity and she doesn't know what to do. And so as a man, it's our responsibility also to address our issues, okay? But it's also our responsibility to be vulnerable and speak about them in a courageous way and go communicate them to other men, or at least on a public platform, or at least to the UFC, I hope he does, or to a psychologist or a therapist, and to create outlets for yourself. Fighting is a tremendous outlet for the psycho-emotional distress and pain and suffering that men experience. And I highly recommend this for men. As someone doing this myself, I'm not just talking, I am walking that walk and doing it myself as well. And so probably one of the best ways if women are watching this is go learn and follow on social media other men who speak about men's issues, and even go see, people think go see a psychologist and therapist because something's wrong with you. How selfish we are. You go see a psychologist and therapist so you can help other people. You go see a psychologist therapist so you can fix yourself to fix other people, or not fix other people, you fix yourself so you can help and create space for other people in a more effective way. Because if you do that as a woman, or as a man, vice versa, you're actually able better to understand the woman or the man you're with.
with obviously the surgery and then the baby and and then like I needed to get in camp. So and then this fight come up. I'm like, it's meant to be. Let's do it. So.
He was waiting, man. He was antsy. He was just waiting for just something to give him purpose beyond just his family and his child and his surgery and just meandering at home and just like doing promos. No, he needed a battle. He needed a greater purpose.
I thought that was what it was, but maybe it was just a silly decision under them circumstances. Again, they're decisions you don't want to make against someone like Islam, and I'm not taking nothing away from him. Yeah.
Good with that, by the way. You know.
Yeah, I know that. I know it's a very common thing. It was something that again I never understood. It was I've never dealt with anything like that, to be honest.
I've never dealt with anything like that, to be honest. What do you think he's talking about? Why would it bring a man to near tears?
I was obviously, I talk about being professional and always turning up, and if there ever was a time that I wasn't, it was literally now. And then, I made a decision, maybe this happened to give me a kick up the ass for being silly. Maybe it won't happen again now. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe this will kick me back into gear, get back in there and go back to featherweight division and kick ass there.
Yeah. So to be clear, I mean, and I understand you very much want.
Yeah, I need to, like I said, I need to be busy. Again, this is it's just I think my main purpose, obviously now, is family and fighting. And when I'm not fighting, I feel like I'm not ticking all the boxes. I need to be ticking the boxes. I don't like wasting time. That's why I've talked to my manager, obviously before this.
Why fighters and why people like Volkanovski are so great is because they go full steam ahead, A-type personality, into their field and domain. And when that is taken away, or when they're not in it, because you're not always in a camp towards a fight, you recover, you prepare, you take time off. When you're not in that, then your only other purpose is maybe your family, or what else. And this is why if I was coaching Volk, I would definitely have conversations alike to what Kobe and LeBron have done, and Kobe did, is finding specific outlets other than fighting, because you can't fight and prepare and train all day, right? And I know he has his family, but I would specifically be talking to him, and I would be talking to the other men watching this. Like, you need to find... I would encourage you to find something other than the main thing you're doing, because there are other ways to fill your day. There are other ways to gain fulfillment and purpose, because you will not always be able to fight. And you don't need to find a thing to replace that right now, but having a secondary outlet that gives you a sufficient challenge and makes you feel fulfilled and makes you feel like you are climbing another mountain. It could be in the intellectual realms. It could be completely different from using your physical body. You could be using your mind. It could be coaching, mentoring. It could be running a camp or a program, using and leveraging the skill set that you developed in your previous and current domain. But that's what I did. That was my transition as an athlete. I turned from an athlete into a health professional and a coach, and that was the natural progression for me, because I was lost without it. I was lost.
Like, we need to keep me busy.
9 times.
Yeah, it's weird. I've never, again, to be honest, it's never really happened. Maybe it was just with the newborn and the surgery and that, it's, again, this ain't an excuse. Again, it's just
and then it's like we self-judge ourselves. Like, we don't want to use the family, the baby, the real life shit, and the depression and the anxiety and the overwhelm and maybe the suicidal ideations. We don't even want to use that as an excuse, because we know people perceive that as a weakness and a vulnerability. How fucked up is all that?
It's just again, like I wanted to put one on his. I thought I could, I thought I could come in and
fight, and then I can help.
I told you that I had nothing but smiles on my face as soon as I did, and so did my wife. She could, we could say, anyway, it's just too many details, so I apologize for that. But it's just, I think it's a common thing, so I think it's okay to at least touch on it a little bit. But so pretty much all I wanted to get is much more than just doing it for the money. You know what I mean? Like, You know what I mean? Like, again, I thrive in this. So at the end of the day, yeah, it hurts me now. It could have been his.
Yeah, so it really came from the comments about people think he was just doing it for the money. You know who said that? Islam said that. His competitor said that. And how wrong it could be. Fair enough, he thought that, but how wrong it could be. And then he realized, you know what, I'm probably touching on it too much now, and then he's capped it. No more details. So, you know, hopefully he can get on a podcast with someone who can hold space for him to be able to speak about these things in an honest and authentic way. Because once you make the unconscious conscious, it will no longer direct your life, and you will stop calling it fate. If someone by some chance, including Volk himself or someone from his camp, is watching this, I hope you can send it to him, and it can give him a degree of peace of mind that, you know, I see you, brother. I see you. I understand you. I empathize with you. I think I would get around a weekly men's circle with your camp and speak about all these things on a weekly basis, or get on a call with someone like me, or a coach and a health professional who understands and speaks with people like this and athletes like you. Just find some type of outlet to allow you not to feel alone, and have an outlet to manage and deal with these things, because I actually think it's going to interrupt your career and fighting future from here on out. There's a chink in the armor, and now you've shown that chink to the world. Now, unless you address it, I think it could grow bigger. If anyone else is struggling out there, just message me on Strength of Saad. I don't need your money. You don't need to hire me. But just you want to talk, just reach out, man. We'll chop it up and we'll send some messages, because I think often we do it until it's too late. Go learn how to fight. Jiu-jitsu, boxing, MMA, whatever it may be. And I'll leave you with this last quote. The reason we fight is so we don't fight ourselves, and the reason we destroy others is so we don't destroy ourselves.